Fear is undoubtedly the most basic and primal emotion we experience as human beings. It is embedded deep in our brain, specifically in the amygdala, that ancient part of our brain structure that has been our ally throughout evolution, helping us survive predators and dangers. For millennia, fear kept us safe, alerting us to immediate threats. But in the modern world, where physical threats are rare, fear has mutated. It no longer protects us from immediate danger. Now it presents itself as a barrier that prevents us from growing, taking risks, or truly living. This modern fear isn't limited to protecting us from the unknown. It also acts as a guard against our own expansion. The irony here is that while fear evolved to keep us alive, today it's preventing us from truly living. This modern fear, which should be called reverse faith, is the unshakable belief in something we don't want to happen. It's a kind of faith, but directed towards the negative, something like believing as intensely in what we fear as others believe in their dreams. Essentially, fear works under the same principles as positive manifestation, only in the opposite direction. While positive manifestation invites us to visualize what we want, fear leads us to attract what we dread. Now, what happens here is fascinating. When we understand the energetic nature of reality, we realize that everything is made up of vibrational fields. Our thoughts, and even more so our emotions, emit frequencies that interact with the universal energy field. The renowned neuroscientist Jacobo Grinberg proposed a theory known as the lattice, a neural field that helps us understand how our perceptions not only interpret reality, but also actively participate in its creation. Fear, like any other emotion, emits a specific vibration, and the universe doesn't distinguish between positive or negative vibrations. It only responds to the intensity and clarity of those vibrations. That is, when we feel fear, we emit a powerful vibration that, instead of protecting us, attracts exactly what we fear. Fear keeps us trapped in a view of the world divided into opposites, good and bad, light and darkness, love and hate. This duality makes us believe that there is an evil or dangerous force in the universe that we must protect ourselves from. However, on a deeper level, that duality is merely an illusion. There are no separate, opposing forces in the universe. All expressions of the universe are manifestations of one fundamental energy. This understanding is revolutionary when we apply it to fear. If only one universal force exists, then nothing external to it can oppose or sabotage our well-being. What we perceive as negative is simply another expression of the same universal energy, viewed through the distorted lens of our limited perception. When we operate from this limited, dualistic understanding, we interpret reality through fragmentation. We see isolated parts and lose sight of the whole. It's like looking at a kaleidoscope and believing each pattern that forms is independent of the others, without realizing that all of them are expressions of the same set of pieces, simply rearranged. This fragmented perspective makes us susceptible to fear because we feel separate, vulnerable, at the mercy of forces that we perceive as external and potentially hostile. In contrast, when we elevate our consciousness and perceive from a unified perspective, we understand that there is no other, no enemy, no opposing force that can act against us. When we recognize the fundamental unity of reality, we realize that all paths eventually lead to the same destination. There is no wrong path in absolute terms. What we interpret as deviations or mistakes are simply different expressions of the same universal path. This understanding frees us from the fear of making the wrong decision or taking the wrong path. From higher consciousness, we understand that every experience, whether pleasurable or challenging, is an integral part of a coherent journey. There are no accidents in the universe. Everything is part of a perfect expression of universal energy manifesting through infinite forms and experiences. Unified perception allows us to transcend fear because it removes its foundation, the illusion of separation. When we understand that we are individualized expressions of the same universal consciousness, fear loses its grounding. There is no other to protect ourselves from. There is no opposing force that can act against us. Seriously, think about it for a second. There is nothing to fear. There is only one force. Understanding fear and the fundamental unity of reality is essential, but we need practical tools to transform this understanding into experience. This is where emotional alchemy comes in. The transformation of fear into courage, The first thing we need to understand is that fear and courage are not opposite emotions, but the same energy expressed at different vibrational frequencies. This is liberating because it means we don't need to eliminate fear or wait for it to disappear to act with courage. We can transform that energy, redirect it, elevate its frequency. The key to this transformation lies in one fundamental element: concentration. Our energy flows where we direct our attention. When we are in a state of fear, our attention is focused on what could go wrong, on potential dangers, on possible threats. This sustained focus on what we fear reinforces a vibration of fear, thus starting the endless cycle. To transform fear into courage, we need to shift our concentration. It's not about denying fear or pretending it doesn't exist, but about redirecting our attention to aspects of the situation that generate a different vibration. We can focus on opportunities for growth, on our inner resources, on the times we have overcome challenges. An effective exercise is to identify areas of our lives where we already act with courage naturally. We all have areas where fear does not paralyze us, where we move forward with confidence and determination. For some, this may be in interpersonal relationships, for others, in physical challenges, or even in creative expression. These areas serve as gateways to the vibration of courage. When we identify these points of strength, we can consciously evoke the sensations associated with them. How does your body feel when you act with confidence? What thoughts occupy your mind? How is your posture, your breathing, your tone of voice? By consciously recreating these states, we are accessing the vibration of courage, making it available for other areas of our lives. One powerful technique involves reinterpreting the physical sensations of fear. When we feel fear, we experience a set of physiological responses, such as increased heart rate, rapid breathing, and adrenaline release. However, these same responses occur when we feel excitement or positive enthusiasm. The difference does not lie in the physical response itself, but in how we interpret it. We can train our minds to reinterpret these sensations as signs of energetic activation, as preparation to act with power, instead of interpreting them as danger signals that paralyze us. It's like reprogramming our internal software to give a different meaning to the same physical signals. However, the deepest transformation of fear into courage doesn't only occur at the mental or emotional level, but through action. True courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Every time we take a step forward while feeling fear, we are training our nervous system to associate those sensations with progress rather than paralysis. This process can start with small steps, which could be called gradual exposure. If you are afraid of speaking in public, don't start with a conference in front of hundreds of people. Start by expressing your opinion in a small group of friends, then perhaps in a work meeting, and gradually progress. Each small victory recalibrates fear into courage, naturally leading us to the next level of personal evolution: self-mastery. This concept goes beyond merely controlling fear. It involves developing a sovereign relationship with all our emotions, thoughts, and states of consciousness. At the core of self-mastery, we find a fundamental element: self-confidence. This is not the superficial confidence displayed socially, but a deep inner certainty that arises from a relationship of honesty and respect with oneself. We could define it as the inner conviction that, no matter what happens, we will be able to respond appropriately. Self-confidence functions as a form of currency in our internal economy. When we possess enough self-confidence, we can purchase higher emotional states, including courage. However, unlike physical money, this currency is not accumulated by chance or inheritance. It is generated through a specific mechanism: the fulfillment of our personal commitments. Every time we make a promise to ourselves and keep it, we deposit a small amount into our self-confidence account. It could be something as simple as committing to wake up at a certain time, practicing a daily habit, or abstaining from a harmful habit. What matters is not the magnitude of the commitment, but the consistency in keeping it. Conversely, every time we break a promise we made, we make a withdrawal from that account. With enough withdrawals, we reach emotional bankruptcy, a state in which we do not trust our own word. At that point, manifesting any desired reality becomes extremely difficult because we don't truly believe in our ability to create it or sustain it. The relationship between self-confidence and fear is inversely proportional. The more self-confidence we have, the less power fear has over us. This happens because self-confidence provides us with the inner security that no matter what happens, we will be able to handle it. Another fundamental aspect of self-mastery is the development of self-validation. Many of us excessively depend on external validation, seeking approval, recognition, or confirmation from others. This dependence makes us vulnerable to fear, as it places our value and security in the hands of others. Self-validation involves valuing our actions, efforts, and attempts for what they are in themselves, not by the results they produce or by others' reactions. To cultivate self-validation, it is essential to focus on our authentic values, and not those driven by the need for external approval. Self-mastery also includes the development of unconditional responsibility. This means acknowledging that we are the primary creators of our experience, not because everything is our fault, but because understanding our creative role empowers us to make changes. When we blame external circumstances for our inner state, we give away our power and become at the mercy of fear. There is a direct relationship between self-mastery and the mastery of the external reality. The same laws that govern manifestation in the outer world operate within our internal universe. By consciously learning to direct our attention, manage our emotional states, and fulfill our internal commitments, we are developing the same skills needed to consciously manifest in the outer world. Self-mastery essentially represents a turning point where we shift from being reactive to life to becoming conscious creators of our experience. It is the bridge between fear and freedom, between limitation and the infinite expansion of our possibilities. To integrate everything we have explored so far, we need concrete practices that allow us to live from a state of inner freedom beyond the domination of fear. These practices are not mere superficial techniques, but transformative tools that, when applied consistently, gradually reconfigure our relationship with reality. The fundamental practice from which all others stem is the cultivation of inner stillness. In a world that values constant activity and relentless productivity, stillness has become a rare treasure. However, it is precisely in that space of silence where we can transcend duality and connect with our higher consciousness. Daily meditation, even if we start with just 5 minutes, creates a space where we can observe our thoughts and emotions without fully identifying with them. This detached observation is the first step to freeing ourselves from the dominance of fear. When we can see fear as a passing wave in our consciousness, instead of identify ourselves as someone who is afraid, we begin to liberate ourselves from its influence. While meditating, we can consciously practice the expansion of our energy field, visualizing our energy extending beyond the limits of our physical body, merging with the universal field. This practice directly counters the energetic contraction that fear produces and helps us experience the essential interconnectedness with everything that exists. Complementary to stillness is the practice of conscious presence in daily life. This involves bringing our full attention to ordinary activities, eating, walking, conversing, working. When we are truly present, fear loses its power because fear always projects us into an imagined future or anchors us in a painful past. Presence returns us to the only moment where we truly have power, the present. An especially potent practice for maintaining an elevated perspective during challenging situations is what we could call the cosmic observer. It involves imagining that we are contemplating our current situation from a vastly broader perspective, as if our temporal concerns are small in the grand scale of existence. Detachment from specific outcomes is another essential practice for living beyond fear. A rigid attachment to how things should unfold creates fertile ground for fear. When we are absolutely determined for something to happen exactly as we imagined, any deviation from that plan becomes a threat. Practicing detachment does not mean relinquishing our desires or intentions. It means holding them lightly with trust in the process of life, open to the possibility that the universe may have even better plans than we can conceive. It means trusting in the higher intelligence that flows through all things, including ourselves. To maintain our elevated vibration throughout the day, we can set regular reminders. These can be as simple as an alarm on our phone that invites us to breathe deeply and reconnect with our essence, or affirmations strategically placed in our environment that remind us of our true, non-dual nature, beyond fear and limitation. Finally, a practice that unifies all the previous ones is a commitment to truth. This means being willing to see with clarity, without distortions or denial, both our internal patterns and the external reality. Fear thrives in the darkness of unconsciousness and denial. When we commit to seeing the truth, however uncomfortable it may be initially, we create the conditions for authentic transformation. We have journeyed through the transformative nature of fear, and now, with all these pieces integrated, we can understand an essential secret. All genuine manifestation begins with the liberation from fear. As long as we remain trapped in the vibration of fear, even our most sincere attempts to create our desired reality are sabotaged from the start. It's like trying to start a fire with wet wood. We may know the technique perfectly, but the essential element is not in the right conditions. Liberation from fear is not a state we reach once and for all. It is a space of consciousness to which we constantly return. It's a daily practice, a commitment moment by moment. There will be days when we naturally flow into that space of freedom, and others when we will need to consciously remind ourselves of our true nature. What matters is not perfection on this path, but consistency in returning to truth every time we drift away from it. Every time we transform fear into courage. Every time we remain present in the discomfort. Every time we honor our internal commitments, we are strengthening our capacity to live from higher consciousness. Imagine how it would be to live from that space of freedom. Imagine the quality of your relationships, the nature of your creative work, the experience of your physical body when they are not continuously filtered by the distorting lens of fear. That life is not an unattainable ideal. It is our natural right, our inheritance as individualized expressions of universal consciousness. The secret to living without fear has always been within you. It's not about acquiring something new, but remembering something your essence has always known. I invite you to begin right now, at this very moment, to claim that freedom that is yours by birthright. Remember, there is only one force, and there is nothing to fear. If you've made it this far, receive as always a strong hug on behalf of the entire team. I say goodbye, wishing you all the best in the world, and thanking you for your company. See you soon. Stay awake.